Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday, I believe. The Dallas Mavericks, Andy, they just won't stop trashing Luka Doncic. I don't know why. Talk about it next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, this one's always free and never behind paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is, I'm just going to call it 33,000 subscribers because it's just that close. They're all hanging out and wondering why the Dallas Mavericks seem to be intent on continuing to trash Luka Doncic following the trade. It is kind of amazing, Andy, when you continue to see what they're doing. This time, Sam Amick, the great reporter at The Athletic, he brings some post-Dallas reaction from inside the building down there. And once again, they are trying to make the point that Luka was not worth the risk, I guess, but man alive.
It's not how I would handle it. From Sam's piece, quote, "Make no mistake, the people who witnessed Doncic's last days in Dallas do not paint a flattering portrait of the 25-year-old's professionalism. They call him lazy. They talk about the weight issues that were such a frequent frustration within their walls. They mention the social habits that The Athletic has reported on, a link to a previous report, such as a taste for beer and hookah, which has been hookah rhymes with Luka.
By the way, beer, they're going to be a billion fantasy football teams next year in Los Angeles named Beer and Hookah. I don't think there's any question about that.
Honestly, man, if I'm Luka, I lean into this and I open a shop called Luka's Hookahs. Just lean into this thing, baby, because you will make some serious coin, which has been a point of concern for NBA type since he was a 19-year-old star for Real Madrid who was entering the draft. They predict his basketball demise, highlighting a health history that, as some see it, will likely lead to catastrophe in the next 5 years or so. Those next 5 years, Brian, by the way, for those who do not know exactly how the CBA works, coincides perfectly with the amount of time he would have been on a Supermax. Mm-hmm. So like those 5 years in particular, or as Dallas would have referred to them, the expensive ones, those are the ones that they were apparently looking to avoid with Luka. And look, these type of reports are nothing new. And frankly, these conversations about Luka have gone on and have been documented well before this trade shocked the world. And, you know, maybe to some degree, this is just Sam reframing things he's been previously told.
No, I think this is new stuff that people are saying to him. That
I was going to say, I am guessing.
Absolutely. For people, we've talked about this, where like we don't like to get into this guy said this or trash some dude saying something on TV or the radio. We try not to use people by name when we're making criticisms of media. The opposite of that is people that we think are very good, we will call out by name. And there are few guys who are more sort of fastidious about what they do in terms of making sure things are well reported and playing things as you should as a sports journalist than Sam Amick. I mean, he is as much of a pro as you're going to find. This is new stuff that people in Dallas are continuing to feed to him. It hits on themes, like you say, Andy, that people know about. But what I think is
also too, just to really drive the point home that I figure this is to some degree new stuff. Sam was in the building on Tuesday night again in the Lakers Mavericks game, and I'm not saying that this was directly said to him by Nico Harrison, but it says in Sam's piece that he actually spoke with Nico and presumably spoke with other people. Just to give that detail, like Sam was actually there and continuing his reporting. And like you said, he's one of the best in the business.
It is one of these deals where, look, I there's a fascinating, because this is Ramona Shelburne and her TikTok of this whole deal, which was, I believe, published last week on ESPN, which is worth reading. We didn't get a chance to get into it, but this conversation will open that door again. There's a fascinating parallel in this whole storytelling to Kobe and Nico Harrison's relationship to Kobe, Rob Pelinka's relationship to Kobe. We'll get to that probably in the next segment. But what I think is amazing about this is, at this point, Andy, everybody knows why Dallas traded Luka. Most people think they're way off the mark in terms of what they did, but everybody gets it. They did not think he was a sound investment at the Supermax. That's it. We'll find out to some degree. Like, you know what? And if Luka breaks down and doesn't get in shape, and 2 years from now, the Lakers are sitting on this contract of a 27-year-old guy who plays 30 games a year, everybody's going to look at Nico Harrison and say, wow, you know what? That was pretty ballsy, and he turned out to be right. If he doesn't, people are going to say Nico was a moron. And he might be, but like, from his perspective, this could be the thing that inspires Luka to get in shape, do all this stuff. There is no way to.
Are you saying this trade was a roundabout way of tough love?
No.
Like he was trying to get Luka in shape?
If Luka comes back in the next 3 preseasons in fantastic shape, plays 65 to 72 games a year, and looks like Luka Doncic, the argument in Dallas would still be, if he had been with us, he wouldn't have done those things. And there's no way to prove that. And it also doesn't matter. So shut up. Because if you're the Mavericks, this doesn't do them any good.
No, I mean, first of all, like you said, we'll know by the end of Luka's time in LA, or just however his prime shakes out, whoever he's playing with. I think the Lakers are fairly confident it's going to be them, but we'll ultimately know whether or not Nico Harrison was prescient about this. There's also a chance that Nico Harrison could have been right, that this trade for Anthony Davis and Max Christie ends up working well for the Mavericks. Like, Anthony Davis, when healthy, is a hell of a player. I think Max Christie has shown a trajectory where he could be one of the better 3-and-D players in the league. Like, the lady doth protest too much. Like, you don't need to justify your actions of a trade that you're saying you think is going to be great for the team by continually, if you're the Mavericks organization, leaking not just bad stuff about Luka, but like the same bad stuff over and over and over. And like, look, when the Lakers landed Pau Gasol, that deal was roundly mocked by the entire league. You know, Greg Popovich nearly had a conniption fit in front of you and I in a pregame before San Antonio, like losing his proverbial bleep about this deal. And as it turned out, that deal worked out pretty well for Memphis in the end. Like, there's a lot of different ways this can go other than just
another trade where a fat guy was moved.
Right. Like, this was Marc Gasol pre getting in shape. But like,
Pau's tubby little brother.
Yeah. Like, there are a bunch of different ways this can turn out that are not just Nico Harrison is an idiot. However, the way the Mavericks are handling this in terms of their messaging is straight up idiotic. That's the difference.
I'll say this too. Like, if I'm a Mavericks fan, I'm sure Nick at Locked On Mavericks is saying, just please stop talking, because the fans don't like it. You know, they still don't like the explanation. Everybody knows it. People still don't like it.
If you're trying to win the PR battle, it is
not going to do it.
Helping
beyond. Okay.
All.
So then from there, you've got like, why would a star want to go play for this team, knowing, well, if this is how they're going to treat guys that, you know, they put up those kinds of numbers, go to a finals, blah, blah, blah. That's a Mavericks problem. The other thing I would say if I'm Locked On Mavericks is shut the heck up, because all you're doing is motivating Luka to not be the thing that you say that he is. So what I would say to Nico Harrison is keep leaking. Keep saying that Luka is too fat and doesn't care and is going to hookah his way out of the league and cares more about his beer than he does. I mean, what do you put in a hookah? Is it tobacco?
It's tobacco, or I suppose you could put other things in it if you want. But at hookah bars, it is my understanding that it is tobacco, often flavored.
Right. Okay.
It's been a long time since I've been a cigarette smoker. So once I quit that, I had no interest in the hookah scene.
It's just from my, like, he's continuing to do the Lakers a favor, because, Luka is a incredibly competitive and by all accounts very petty guy, like in a star athlete petty way. So by all means, keep doing this. We didn't get to, Andy, something that I know you wanted to talk about, which was LeBron's defense. We'll get to that later in the show, but next let's talk about this Kobe connection, because it's a fascinating aspect of this story that obviously for our audience is going to be particularly interesting. So we'll get to that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. There's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. Like, for example, you use the live betting feature because it'll just keep every single moment of the game exciting. You're in it. It can always shift. And whether you're backing your team for a late game rally or just picking a player to hit a clutch three, you never feel like you're missing your chance. Plus, the app's really easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Quick mention the newsletter. You go to LockedOnDaily.com and you subscribe there to the Locked On Lakers newsletter. You just go to Locked On Daily, you click on Locked On Lakers, and you get a piece of analysis from us every day. Something we write up every night and send out, along with some great analysis from around the rest of the Locked On network, the NBA channel, and of course, it'll take you to the podcast too. Of course, you could get the podcast by subscribing on iTunes or wherever, Spotify. Maybe that's where you get your podcasts. One of the things, go back and find this story from Ramona Shelburne at ESPN. One of the reason if people have missed this detail, and I think most people haven't, but that Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison were able to get together on this is, Harrison was a longtime executive at Nike, obviously very close relationship with Kobe Bryant. Kobe and Rob, that was his agent, and so these guys knew each other quite well. Part of what got Nico to believe that Luka wasn't his guy was his experience watching Kobe.
This also from Sam Amick's piece. Harrison's personal journey adds an even deeper layer to the discussion. He rose to prominence as the trusted shoe representative for the Lakers' Kobe Bryant, and thus clearly decided that Doncic didn't fit the, quote, Mamba mentality bill. Conversely, the combination of Harrison's close relationship with Davis from their days together at Nike, as well as his strong belief that title contenders need to be special defensively, clearly played a pivotal part in the decision-making process, as Tim Cato of DLLS reported after the deal went down. As league sources confirmed to The Athletic, Harrison is known to have a kind of short-term view of his GM role that might explain his impatience with Doncic's development. He and they have no time to waste if he's going to do this job for a few years. I mean, sure, Luka's been like a top 3 player in the league for like 3 or 4 years, but I don't know if Nika's got the sweet time to wait around for that guy to hit number 1. Luka's development?
Look.
What?
I think there is
sure, he's a bit of a project, but I got to tell you, lately, like seeing him up close, I'm feeling good about his potential moving forward.
You know, when I think of projects on the Lakers currently, I think of Bronny first, but then Luka. Right?
Like, who do you think develops quicker between the two, Luka or Bronny? Like, starting now, blank slate, the two of them.
Are the Lakers going to give Luka the time in the G that he needs, or are they going to rush this?
Well, he's been in the league so long now; they can't do it. You know,
I know, it's a shame.
Old Tubby's going to throw a donut fit if they bring that up.
Look, I think there is going to be a change in the way that NBA GMs look at max contracts, at super max contracts, all that stuff. 5 years ago, it was like a guy gets up for it. It's like, of course we're going to. And now you hear whispers that, you know, obviously the Mavericks didn't want to give that money to Luka. The Grizzlies may not be tripping over themselves to give a full supermax or whatever Ja is available to get because of the stuff, you know, we go back to what that happened last year, but more than anything, the fact that the guy just has trouble staying on the floor. And, you know, these investments that teams have to make in players that, you know, 75, 85, soon to, you know, it's going to be touching $100 million a year pretty soon. If you make the investment in the wrong guy, you are crippling your franchise for years. I don't think I get all that stuff, but there's no, other than like, okay, we can give a supermax to Nikola Jokic. It's like, okay, like that's the only guy apparently, according to Nico Harrison, who is not risky enough to do this. And like, I find this Kobe connection fascinating because it's like, he doesn't have the Mamba mentality. Kobe loved Luka. Kobe thought Luka was phenomenal. You know, and Luka, you know, talks about that moment where he, you know, shook his hand and saw him courtside and all that kind of stuff. Rob Pelinka was Kobe's agent. So the guy, you have this warring view of two guys holding up Kobe as an example, and Nico saying not Kobe enough, and Rob essentially saying like it's like getting our Kobe again, like the star that we need. And that view of it, you know, the Lakers do everything in the model and in the memory of Kobe Bryant, and you know, so that aspect of it, when I first read that from about Nico, I was like, that is stunning to me.
Well, it's incredibly ironic that Nico would make this trade of a guy that he does not think has enough of the Mamba mentality to an organization that is run by a guy that was hired in part because of his relationship to Kobe, the creator of the Mamba mentality to begin with, and since Kobe's passing, in all honesty, is considered in a lot of ways to be the gatekeeper of the Mamba mentality. There's a couple comments here that I think stand out. First of all, from Hammerby1169, calling Luka a project is like calling the Getty Villa a fixer-upper. But also,
the Getty Villa is not a fixer-upper. It is.
I also think this one from
happily live in.
Malove, I think, is also very accurate. If Kobe is your standard, no one will ever meet it. Like, and this is something that the Lakers have actually, we've talked about this many times over the years covering the team. A trap that they've often allowed themselves to get caught up in. Like the idea that the mythology of Kobe, which was, you know, it was obviously real and well-earned and, you know, a one-of-one type player. It's great if you use that as, you know, motivation or something for your players to use as an example of trying to get the best out of yourself, all that stuff. But like Mamba mentality was both real and branding. And like you can't get so caught up in the ethos of what was, again, branding, that you start making your decisions based on whether somebody can meet a branding standard or not. Again, I want to make it clear, I'm not taking anything. You and I, for those who aren't aware, Brian and I covered Kobe for the last 10 years of his career. Like we saw up close the incredible, frankly, insane work ethic and perfection that he held himself to. Like all of that was real, but it was also marketed and branded and part of the mythology of Kobe. And you have to make sure that in trying to meet that, you are keeping yourself grounded in reality on a bunch of different fronts.
I look at it this way too. It's like Shaq didn't have the Mamba mentality, and that's, I'm going to heal on company time, all that kind of stuff. We knew about some of that stuff when Shaq was 25 years old. That kind of. Would you let a 25-year-old Shaq get away because you don't think he's a good 10-year investment? Absolutely not. Could we live in a world where when Luka gets close to 30, when where we're having a debate about like that second contract he's up for with the Lakers, do you max him out again after whatever deal he's going to sign? This maybe like Joel Embiid is a cautionary tale. Paul George is a cautionary tale. There are a lot of guys. Damian Lillard to some degree, cautionary tale. Like you look, but not when they're 25. And not when they're coming off 5 straight all-NBA seasons, and not when they just went to the freaking finals.
Yeah. And none of this is to say, by the way, that like there isn't an onus on Luka to be better with some of this stuff. Like,
of course there is.
Kobe used to eat McDonald's before games. Like Kobe,
there was
talked with him about this.
There was a McDonald's at the Staples Center at the time, and like I was always fascinated by the amount of professional athletes that were eating McDonald's before
Kobe, by his own admission, for the first several years of his career, ate like bleep. Now, he was also a maniacal workaholic, but let's be honest, you don't get this good at what Luka does without putting a little work in. Like especially when you're Luka and you're not super athletic, where just your natural gifts can paper over everything else. Like Luka's a skill player. You develop that.
One more thing I want to say about this, and I want to get to some of the stuff I know you wanted to talk about with LeBron's defense, because that in as much as anything, obviously the trade is important and this, that, but the run of success the Lakers have had predates the trade. It predates all of that stuff, and LeBron's defense is integral to that. I do want to let people know before we go to break, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So one more point about Luka, and then LeBron next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you get a 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts, and that's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from the first match, and you must keep funds in an IRA for 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost for details. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
So Andy and Andy still does tons of work. I pop on there occasionally, but Andy is a regular at 710 ESPN in Los Angeles, the flagship station of the Lakers. And we used to, when he was there, work a lot with Max Kellerman. And one of the things that Max said that I always thought was really smart was it is very easy to get hung up like in greatness and wishing that it was greater. All players could be greater in some way. Wouldn't it be great if this guy was even greater? Well, yeah, like, if Kobe had a little better shot selection or was a little better of a leader or all these, like, he'd be even greater than he was. But you know what? He's pretty great as it is. So let's just appreciate that. I feel like there's a lot of that with Luka here. It's like, is he perfect? He is not. Does he need to get in and stay in better shape? Yes, he does. But we're not talking about a guy who, has he missed some games over the course of his career? He has. But he played 70 last year. And he has never played fewer than 61. So that in the modern NBA, keeping in mind too that some of these seasons in the middle are COVID seasons where there weren't 82 games to play. So I mean, I look at this and I'm like, where is this long track record of injuries or something like that? Yes, it would be great if Luka were greater, but I am going to bet 1,000 times out of 1,000 on the guy with this much talent at 25 years old to be good for another 5 years. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If there are a couple of years that I got to eat on this contract, but find me another player with Luka's skill. Look at what he did in the first half on Tuesday. He wasn't even playing that well by his own standards. And he damn near had a triple-double in the first half. Look, this guy is crazy talented.
I get also that there are concerns that specifically Luka's injuries have been related to conditioning, the recurrent calf issues, lower extremities. Like, just to clarify for people, I understand all of those concerns. Like, again, when this deal broke, because it was so out of left field and Luka is so good, both of our immediate reaction was, what does Dallas know? That is where both of our brains first went, even before holy bleep, the Lakers have Luka starting a month before he officially enters his prime. Even before that, we were like, okay, what do they know? Did they mark Rob Pelinka as a mark? Just because, again, this was so head spinning. But once that reaction has started to peter away from me, and you just start thinking about the idea of holy bleep, Luka is a Laker. Again, you just start getting into more of the, how would any other team handle this? It's very rare to have the Tim Duncans or the Steph Currys, the franchise face superstar, first ballot Hall of Famers, that there's truly nothing to manage with those guys. Like Duncan, Curry, they're on the shortest of lists, maybe Dwayne Wade, of guys that it just seemed like there really was nothing to sort of eggshell walk with any of them. They're the rare guys. Most superstars have some degree of bleep that you need to deal with. Kobe, obviously, dedication to the game was not an issue for Kobe at all, but there was a lot of eggshell walking with Kobe. He was really high maintenance, and there were times where, quite frankly, he was a pain in the ass to the organization. Was he worth it? Hell yes. Hell yes. And both of those things can be true and is typically true for most star athletes.
You and I'm sure they'll do this in Dallas, and we'll finish on LeBron here for a few minutes. But the last thing on this is just, I want to do the same thing for Luka that we tried to come around to doing for AD, which was not move the bar. It's Luka, he's not there yet, which I understand. There is a level of performance and output that you expect from Luka, and it's extraordinarily high. But I think the goal here is to set that bar at a reasonable place and leave it there. And that bar is not perfection in every way. And it's never been that for any player. And it wasn't that for Kobe. Kobe didn't meet a bar of perfection. And so I think that's what I'm looking for. You have some stuff that you wanted to talk about for this show, specifically about LeBron and LA's defense.
I thought it was really interesting last night after the Dallas game, which obviously Luka was the story of the game heading into it just because there's so much story with it. But LeBron's performance, and in particular his fourth quarter, was incredible. And LeBron is who really, more than any other single Laker, pushed that game over the top. And I don't remember the question JJ was asked after the game that specifically brought that. Probably just like some version of like, how does LeBron keep doing this, whatever. And JJ said, quote, again, he defies what is normal. That's not an exaggeration. If you watch our basketball team every night and then watch our team now for the last 6 weeks or so, LeBron's playing at an all NBA defense level. Now, people may have perceptions of what he is as a defender. I watch it every night. He doesn't get scored on in isolations if teams do try to target him. He blows plays up. He's always in the right position, shifting, recovering. I think there was a perception of him at this age like conserving energy. No, there's no conservation of energy on that end of the floor. He's played elite defense now for a while. And I found that really interesting. First of all, I looked up some numbers, and obviously this is an overly simplistic way to distill it down, but I think it tracks with the eye test and the overall success of the team. The Lakers' defensive rating for the season is 113, and LeBron's for the season is 112.9. So basically, LeBron's is exactly at the same level of the team overall. And if you don't think the defense was good enough overall, then it goes without saying that LeBron's metrics, which are the same as the overall defense, also not good enough. Last 6 weeks that JJ brought up, and you and I have actually talked about LeBron's defense in that same framing as well. The last 6 weeks, the Lakers' defensive rating 107.4, so considerably better. LeBron's 105.8 over the last 6 weeks. And this time, LeBron's defense is actually slightly better than the defensive rating of the team, which has gotten incredibly better. And it speaks to LeBron's dedication to that end that we've talked about a lot over the last 4 to 6 weeks that he deserves a ton of credit for. But what I also think is interesting about it is that concept of, and I understand that national media, like a lot, everybody doesn't get to watch every game. You and I don't get to watch every game of the other 29 teams, but there is still as JJ rightly pointed out, a perception that LeBron is this massive defensive liability now that he honestly was earlier in the season, which
I'd say he was in October and November.
You and I talked about that a lot, often pissing off some of our audience in the process, but it was the truth. He is now not doing that. And I just think it's really interesting how that piece of this really hasn't caught up to, I think, the perception of the team. Because when you hear people talk about now new expectations for the Lakers and, what's their ceiling? Could they win a championship? When defense gets brought up, and I think there's still a lot of people who don't really recognize the team's defense has gotten a lot better. Reeves, Luka, and LeBron are always brought up as the reason the defense can't be very good. Like, that's going to be the problem for the Lakers is those three. And LeBron specifically, if he's playing like this, good luck targeting him. Like, I can tell you right now, coaches are not going to target LeBron because the last thing you want to do is piss that guy off and give him a true reason to step up the defense to a level he's still capable of doing. Like, I think Austin and even Luka have been pretty good defensively the last couple of games, but
the whole
it
team
still applies to them, I think, in terms of if nothing else, the relative weaknesses of this defense. But like, if LeBron's playing like this, he's not a liability.
No, he's a plus.
Was before, not now.
He's a plus. And LeBron has like a lot of stars, like a lot, he has always been able to crank it up defensively when he needs to. The problem is he can't do it, at this age and do LeBron on offense. And like last year, LeBron had to be LeBron. Part of the problem with the Lakers was LeBron and AD both played a ton of games and had to be way too good for the Lakers to kind of hang out around the play-in, that level. And that, that's not tenable. The way that Reeves has developed, the way that now you bring in somebody like Luka, like look at LeBron's assist numbers since Luka got here. They have plummeted. And it's not because LeBron stopped caring about passing. It's because he doesn't have to do it as much of that stuff. And the energy that he doesn't have to put out on offense, he can transfer to defense. And quite frankly, I think he finds the challenge of being a lockdown defender at age 40 more interesting than doing the other stuff. And so
that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
We talk about the stuff that you got to do to stay interested and motivated at 40 and you're 22. Like all of this helps. And so we'll see what happens tonight. Obviously another tough game against Minnesota. You've got 2 games coming up against the Clippers that are going to be difficult with Kawhi Leonard back in the lineup. We'll see what it looks like. But if the Lakers play well again defensively, win or lose, and hold the Wolves and the Clippers between 100 and 110 points or whatever it might be, you're looking at something that seems pretty sustained. And I'm impressed. And it starts with LeBron. And I think the defense has been unbelievably impressive. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with about 33,000 subscribers to the channel. Of course, we will be back following the game. Check out the postcast with Dave Palais. Please do sign up for that newsletter. We'll see everyone after the game.